are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome into a Friday morning live show edition of the Uptempo Podcast. Look, we don't ever really go live on Friday mornings like this, so I know some of y'all might be late to the party, but let me know as you come in here. Let me know where you're watching from. Hit that thumbs up button, like this video, subscribe to the Uptempo Podcast today if it's your first time here with us, and follow me on X at DMcSide28. Share this link out. If you're just not getting here, share this link out. Let people know that we are live, because here's the story. I recorded a video last night on all of Auburn's portal editions yesterday. Went to upload it at about 6 o'clock this morning. By 7, it still wasn't even 50% uploaded. It said that there was copyright issues. There shouldn't be any copyright issues. It's just me sitting in front of my wall here. And then I canceled out, tried to re-upload it again. It kept doing the same thing. So I said, look, we got to get this stuff up for the people. Let's just go live. Let's just go live and talk about Auburn's new portal edition. So I want to start off because it was a big day in the trenches yesterday for Auburn, and Auburn got a couple of pieces that they really need to add. Let's start off on the offensive line with Jacob Strand, redshirt senior. He will be coming in with 1 year of eligibility left, coming in at 6'5", 305 pounds. He started all 6 games at left tackle. The first 6 games of the season for Oregon State last year. He battled through some injury issues. He didn't play after that. You're bringing in a guy here that has a lot of experience. He's played in some games previous. Does have a bit of an injury history. So that is something, just to monitor. But I think that Auburn's bringing in a guy in Jacob that is – they expect him to play he can play guard, but he played in all games at tackle last year. They expect him that he can do some different things down there on the offensive line, a versatile piece. But when you look at the additions of Joseph Simmons, the James Madison transfer, and then the starting left tackle from Michigan State as well, who also had some injury issues there, you're bringing in some guys here, and you're going to let them compete, and you're going to see who rises to the top. And also, we'll talk about another addition that Auburn had in a second. It's on the offensive line. It's really important to remember that Auburn had to completely rebuild this O-line. Alex Golesh had to completely rebuild this offensive line, basically. So you need to kind of lay your depth a little bit. And if you look at what like Indiana's done, everybody, they're the talk of the college football world right now. They've gone out and got a lot of these experienced guys, a lot of veteran guys, and kind of filled their roster out with that. So this, you're bringing in a guy that has only 1 year of eligibility. So if it doesn't work out, then it's not that hard to move on from. So if you miss on this one, if he comes in and he can't stay healthy, or he doesn't fit, or he just isn't up to playing SEC ball, if that's the case, then he has 1 year of eligibility and you move on. Now, best case scenario, he hits. Maybe he can start at that tackle position, or he can be that third tackle and provide depth. And maybe he can play some guard if you need to. Maybe he can be a swing type player and help you out there. But you're bringing in a veteran piece here, a guy that's played a lot of football, that's been in college football for a long time. And again, Auburn had to completely rebuild this offensive line. So you're going to see some young guys come in that maybe don't have a whole lot of experience. And we'll talk about one of those in just a second, a transfer from Ole Miss. And then you're going to also kind of see these veteran pieces like a Cole Best, like a Jacob Strand, those guys. And again, look to versatility, guys that can play different positions. Cole Best can play guard. He can play center. So it'll be fun to kind of see how this offensive line all pans out. But you see the vision here, bringing in veteran pieces. And a Joseph Simmons, the tackle from Michigan State. Help me out in the chat. His name slips my mind here. And now Jacob Strand from Oregon State, who, again, has been in Division I football for a long time, played a lot of football, and started all 6 games that he was healthy for at left tackle last season. So, and look, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to really try to predict depth chart right now. Like, I'm going to wait till the roster is complete before we kind of get into who's going to be the starters, who's going to be, backups and all that. But you can definitely expect Jacob Strand to most likely be in the 2 deep. And Auburn has to completely rebuild its 2 deep. So this is a nice piece. If you're starting from scratch, then going out and getting a guy that has experience at the Division I level and has been in college football for a long time like that. You need a veteran piece like that to kind of help out some of those young guys. So I like the pickup. And also, when you're looking at in terms of NIL, I don't think that you had to really break the bank here, but and everyone's looking for experienced offensive linemen. Everyone is looking to, especially the teams that went through a coaching change, looking to kind of completely rebuild their O line. You see that through even some of the top schools. Like right now, offensive line is at a premium. So going out and getting Jacob Strand, this is a nice addition for Auburn. I'm excited to kind of see where he falls on the depth chart. But when you look at like the floor, it's nice. It's nice to bring in a guy like this that at the very least can add depth for you. And then the ceiling is, he can maybe start for you at the tackle position. So like that pickup. Another one that came in on the defensive line yesterday, Walter Matthysse Jr. This is one I'm really excited for. He played in all 12 games last year for LSU as a true freshman, so he will be coming in as a sophomore with 3 years of eligibility left. 6'2", 285, and he actually he put on a significant amount of weight from his high school senior year to his freshman season. And when you turn on the tape, quick twitch, super athletic, and a versatile guy that can play in a bunch of different spots on that defensive line. He can play that defensive end position for you. He can help set the edge in the run game. And we all know how hard it is to get into a rotation on the line of scrimmage, a D-line rotation in the SEC. It's not easy to do as a young player. And Walter Matthysse Jr. was able to do that last year at LSU, an LSU team that has some talent down there on the defensive line. So, and also, this is a battle that Auburn won. Tennessee was in for Walter Matthysse Jr. Rodney Garner went hard at him. We all know how good of a recruiter Rodney Garner Jr. is. So, I like this pickup. I like this pickup for Auburn. And you feel like his best football is ahead of him. You feel like his best football is ahead of him, and you're putting him with a staff, with a D-line coach, with a defensive coordinator that I think we all can trust is going to develop and get the best out of him. So, and this is not like a shot at Malik Blockton, but I don't know if this is like a trade. Say you just say we traded Walter Matthysse Jr. from Malik Blockton from LSU. In terms of, and I don't have the NIL figures in front of me, but I know that Malik Blockton he had a nice deal. And I'm sure Walter Matthysse, you had to compete with Tennessee. Like I'm sure he got a good deal as well from Auburn. But I think that if you look at like value and then just what you traded for, I think Auburn came out, on the right side of that deal here. So I like this pickup also. Not as much on the offensive line, more so on the defensive line. You've had to, or excuse me, not as much as on the offensive line, but on the defensive line, Auburn has had to rebuild. And this is a nice piece with multiple years of eligibility. That's clearly SEC caliber, right? He cracked the rotation early as a true freshman at LSU, and then Tennessee was trying to bring him in there. So this is a battle that you were able to beat out Tennessee, which is also big time in terms of look at what Tennessee has been as a program compared to what Auburn has been. They've been winning football games. They've made the college football playoff in recent years. So for Auburn to be able to get Walter Matthysse Jr. in, that's a nice pickup. Let's get to some of these comments. Anthony Insider says, War Damn Eagle Gang. Dustin, I told y'all this may be the best hire in Auburn history. I hope you're right, buddy. I hope you're right. That would be great. Now you're talking about some, you got the Pat Dyes in there and things like that, Ant. But at least, man, if it could be the best hire since Tubbs, that'd be a good start. That'd be a good start. Being the best hire in history, that'd be awesome. The weakest link says Matthysse has tons of potential. Yeah, look, big time explosive player. We'll do the film breakdown for the members. I've already looked at a little bit of his tape and remember some of his stuff from LSU because this was a player that Auburn recruited. Auburn recruited him out of high school. There was a previous relationship there. He had already visited Auburn, so it wasn't really surprising to me that Auburn was able to get this one wrapped up. And we know that defensive staff they can recruit now. Vontrell, he can recruit for sure. So not surprised that Auburn's able to pull this off. And yeah, like tons of potential. Again, he's got a lot of football left, and I think that this staff has shown that they can develop, especially at that position. So I'm excited. I think he might be a starter. He'll for sure get a lot of reps. Like Walter Matthysse is definitely going to be a big part of Auburn's defensive line next year. Whether he starts or not, that to be determined. But yeah, I think it's a big pickup for Auburn. SEC caliber player that has the NFL ceiling when you're talking about potential weakest link. Not only because I've never felt bad, O-line and D are the most in demand positions. The starters typically don't leave, so you're taking a chance almost every time you get one of those. Yeah, for sure. For sure. If you're a Power 4 football team out there and you have a starting caliber left tackle or right tackle or interior lineman, if you have offensive linemen that you can trust, for the most part, you're not letting them walk, especially tackle. And like you said here, Jordan, any position that's in demand, that's in high demand, a school is going to do everything they can to keep them. So elite, proven, those kind of offensive linemen and at the edge position as well, a lot of times they just don't become available. The school does whatever it needs to do to lock down because they understand. They understand what it means to lose a proven starting left tackle. There's not a lot of those out there. They're in high demand, like you said. So that's why when you kind of look at what Auburn's had to do in rebuilding this offensive line, going out and getting a Stanton Ramil from Michigan State, who started games, who has a lot of experience, going out and getting a Strand from Oregon State, who has started games and has experience. Yeah, Auburn's doing a good job considering what the market is and what's available to him. And then also, I love the pickup of Joseph Simmons. I love the pickup of Cole Best. Those are guys that can come in that have a lot of experience, even though it was at that Group of 5 level. I think it translates, and I think that they'll be able to hold their own in the SEC and provide you with SEC caliber reps. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to consider what is really available out there and what the market is. And Auburn's doing a good job, all things considered. And man, it's just how tough is it to have to completely rebuild at the line of scrimmage? That's hard. And there was so much discussion about who Auburn was going to be able to keep and roster retention and all that. And I think that you've seen now, it was a fair discussion, but I think we've seen now, whether it be Lane Kiffin or Sumrall at Florida, you can look at some of the coaching changes up in the Big Ten, whether it be Penn State or Iowa State over there in the Big 12. Like in this current structure and this current model of college football, there will always be a lot of turnover when you have a coaching change. And Auburn's no different than that. Auburn was never going to be any different than that. So it just, to your point, Jordan, when you have premium positions of need, like offensive and defensive line, when you have to completely restructure and rebuild those rooms, that's a very tall task. On top of, we lost our 2 starting corners. We got to lock that down. On top of, hey, we got to go get a quarterback. And sure, Byron Brown, it was easier to pull that off because he had a previous relationship with Golish. But if he would have hit the open market and other teams would have really got in there for Brown, he could have demanded a high price from playoff teams. So Auburn still had to have all his ducks in a row and get that done. So they've had a lot to do here and not a lot of time to do it. So all in all, I think the staff is doing a good job when you look at kind of the hand that they were dealt. Living in Tampa, but Auburn is home. War Damn Eagle. Yeah, shout out. What's the weather like down there in Tampa today? It's really cold up here in the panhandle of Florida. I'm sure it's a little bit warmer down there. But we're hoping that the first weekend of February, it gets kind of cold down there in Tampa because they are having the outdoor the outdoor NHL game there at Raymond James Stadium. That will be cool. But yeah, Auburn is home for sure, my guy. Let's talk about another addition to the offensive line. TJ Hedrick coming in from Ole Miss. Did not play in the game last year at Ole Miss, so he will be coming in as a redshirt freshman. 247 had him listed as the number 762nd player and the number 54th, or the 54th ranked offensive tackle in the 2025 recruiting class. He comes in at 6'4", 320 pounds. So here's how I view this one. Again, you have to rebuild the entire offensive line. Now think about a guy like Broderick Scholl, who has since entered the portal and moved on from Auburn. When you recruited Broderick Scholl as to play that tackle position and to be your future at that position. That was the plan. Well, when he enters the portal, somebody's got to fill that role. Yes, you need the Stanton Ramils from Michigan State. Yes, you need the Strands from Oregon State. You need those veteran pieces. But you don't want to be in the process of having to completely rebuild your line through the portal every year. So you need to layer your depth a little bit, and you need to add pieces for the future. Because a lot of your pieces a lot of people that you thought were the future, your DeAndre Carters, your Broderick Scholls, those guys, they moved on. So you had to put new people in that position. So that's what Auburn's doing here with TJ Hedrick coming in from Ole Miss. Look, we don't know a whole lot about him. We are definitely going to do a film breakdown for the members, but that's kind of what I see in TJ there. They've identified a player that they feel like can be a future starter at that tackle position, and they brought him in. And obviously, he's of SEC caliber. He's coming from an SEC school that made a nice little playoff run. So this is a nice pickup in terms of potential, in terms of building for the future. This is what Auburn has to do to replace some of these young guys that left on that offensive line. You've seen Auburn add a lot of veteran pieces on that offensive line. It makes sense to where you have to bring in somebody to fill the role of the Broderick Scholls and the DeAndre Carters, the guys that you thought that were going to be the future at those positions. So, and I would probably expect to see another guy like this, maybe an interior guy like this, that hasn't played a lot of football, but they've evaluated it and they think, that he could project forward. He could be a starter for Auburn somewhere in the future, because it would only make sense for them to do that. They have to layer some depth. They have to kind of bring in those pieces to rebuild an entire room. And an offensive line is a big room to have to rebuild. So kind of moving forward here, let's turn our discussion towards, and I want you guys to let me know in the comments, what else do you want to see from Auburn? What are some more portal needs? What are some things that would make you feel a little bit better about this roster? Look, I thought yesterday was a big day. I like everything. When you break down every player individually, they all make sense. I will kind of run through them again real quick because we do have a lot of people piling in here as I noticed that we're going live. Jacob Strand, redshirt senior with 1 year of eligibility remaining, started 6 games at left tackle before shutting it down due to injury last year for Oregon State, but an experienced guy that's played a lot of football. And then Walter Matthysse Jr., who cracked LSU's rotation on the D-line. They got a lot of talent on that defensive line. A versatile player that can do a lot of different things down there on that defensive front for Auburn. 9 tackles in 12 games. He'll be coming in as a true sophomore, 6'2", 285. Very athletic. That's what pops when you kind of turn on the tape for him. So that's a big pickup for Auburn. Auburn was in a battle with Tennessee, and ultimately Auburn was able to come out on top. So, there's a lot of there was a lot of talk early in this transfer portal about Auburn and all these USF guys. I think because we kind of zoom out and we've got further down the road here, you can see this staff already had relationships with those South Florida guys. There was always going to be a big influx of them right when the portal opened, because that work's already been done. That groundwork's already been laid. They've already played for these staff. So that made sense. As we've kind of got further into it, you see them winning battles like Walter Matthysse, getting into a battle with Tennessee, into a battle with Rodney Garner, who can recruit defensive line and has a lot of proof of concept about getting guys into the pros and all that on the defensive line. We know that well as Auburn fans. And Auburn was able to win that battle. So, big day for the staff yesterday. And I like all three additions, but there's still work to do. My guy says pass rusher needed badly, in my opinion. Yes, definitely in need of pass rusher still. Would love to see a guy. It's just right now when you look at that edge room, is all potential. I would love to see a guy that has some production there. But like I just talked about, that's also a premium position. And how many of those proven pass rushers that have proven production in Division I football, how many of those are available? There's just not a lot of them out there, because usually you don't let those guys leave. Like Auburn never let Keldra Falk leave, right? Is an example of that. Ant says we may get Robinson and Womack later. Yeah, definitely expect some more additions to the team today. Look, man, appreciate you guys piling in here. I was not prepared to go live. It was not the plan. I got a lot of stuff that I got to go do. So this was not at all. This was very just last minute. Had to get it popped up. Like I said, for whatever reason, the episode that I had recorded last night, which was a lot more cleaner because I was more prepared for it. That episode just wouldn't upload to YouTube today, so we came on here and did the live. So thank you guys for coming in here and helping me out and make it happen. Teresa says, I'm worried a little bit about backup quarterback. Yes, I know I'm a little bit behind. Yeah, I hear you, Teresa. What happened last year with Ashton Daniels was just kind of an anomaly. Like Auburn got so lucky and having a guy that has started 24 games, I think it was, at Stanford at a Power 4 program, to just be willing to come in and not cause a fuss and be the backup. And then whenever it became his turn, you saw that he was maybe the best option. He was at least better than the starter, the guy that Auburn started the season with. So, yeah, Auburn got really lucky in that. You're just not going to see a lot of that. Most of these guys are going to go somewhere where they have a clear path to playing time, and that makes sense, especially if you have an avenue to create that path for yourself, which they do with the portal and the NIL and the whole structure that is college football right now. But so I think that when you look at what Auburn has done at backup quarterback, yeah, there's nothing proven behind Brown. That's for sure. You have Tristan Tia, who I think will win that QB2 spot, who started one game at the end of the year versus Washington State and came off the bench and versus Tulsa. And he was, had a nice performance off the bench, but that's just not a lot. So yeah, I hear you, Teresa. And I've looked at all of those guys in that room behind Brown. I've looked at as much of as game footage of them as we could find. Some of it's just huddles, right? Which is only the highlights, which is only the best plays. So like, how much can you really take from that? There's just not a lot on those guys. To your point, they don't have a lot to. There's not a lot of a proven tape. There's not a lot of proven film on that. It's definitely a mystery. So yeah, I hear you. We'll see. It's a valid concern, Teresa. I think all those guys have potential. I like what they all could be, but nothing proven there. Chris says, War Eagle from New Hampshire. Appreciate you tapping in with us from New Hampshire, Chris. Drexel says, things looking better each day, War Eagle. Yeah, yesterday was a good day for sure. Yesterday was a very good day. Again, I love the pickup on the O-line because you're just you're adding veteran pieces that have played a lot of college football. And it makes sense to me the way they did it. You add the young piece that's supposed to be the future. You add the guy that's got 1 year of eligibility left. And when you kind of tie in the Stanton Ramil and the Joseph Simmons, who I'm very high on, I like it. And Cole Best, like you're starting to kind of see the vision here. I would like to see one more interior offensive lineman, one more guard added that you felt like this guy is going to be a starter. I would like to see a guy of that caliber added. And then like we just talked about, edge rusher. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then everything else will be kind of filling out the roster. I would like to see, so pretty much one more starting caliber offensive lineman on the interior and one more starting caliber edge rusher. And then understanding that they still have some work to do on that defensive front. I would love to get the kid from North Carolina, that was visiting yesterday. That would be a big piece for that defensive front. And I think that when you look at what this staff is faced with, what they came into, the situation that they walked into when they took over this roster, when they took over the mess that was the NIL situation at Auburn, I think they're doing a good job. Ant says Maryland inside lineman to visit Sunday. Yeah. So the last day to enter the portal is today, but there will still be stuff taking place after today. So we still have plenty to talk about in the coming weeks. That would be a very, very big pickup for Auburn. AU Sleeping Giant says that's what I'm talking about. And yeah, if Auburn's able to get that done, that makes me feel a lot better about the interior of the offensive line and just kind of where this whole offensive front stands as a whole. Because look, I love what you've done at starting quarterback. I think Brown is a beast. I think Auburn's going to have one of the best running back rooms, just top to bottom talent-wise. And I like the way they complement each other. I think Auburn will have one of the best running back rooms in the SEC. Which, when you think about Alex Golis saying, I want to run the freaking football like he did in his opening press conference, and then he goes out and assembles a running back room like he has, retaining Jeremiah Cobb, getting Bryson Washington from Baylor. It makes me feel really good about he meant it when he said that. So right now it's just about solidifying this offensive line. And I think that we have to have reasonable expectations in that in terms of they had to rebuild this entire room. They faced a very difficult job, and I think that they're doing a good job, all things considered. So thank you guys for tapping in, man. Let's get through here. Make sure there's no more comments that we have missed from our members. Let's see. The weakest link says these veteran guys will likely start, but we need depth too. So this is a solid pickup. Oregon State was a P4 program up until 2 years ago. Yeah, absolutely. Like, let's say that Joseph Simmons and Stanton Ramil are your starters at the tackle positions. Not a bad pickup. And getting Jacob Strand, who is an experienced veteran guy that can help be a leader in that room, but has also played a lot of football in his time in Division I. So, yeah, and started all 6 games last year at left tackle before he got hurt for Oregon State. So, if that's your third tackle, that's a nice depth piece. And if he can play a little bit inside in a pinch, solid pickup there. These are the kind, they're not all going to be super flashy when you have to rebuild the entire room. You need guys like Jacob Strand. So, yeah, I agree with you, buddy. Love that pickup for Auburn. Love the way it's kind of shaping up here for this staff and for this roster. They still got a little bit of work to do left to go. You call me Night Wolf, says War Damn Eagle, and have a great weekend. Absolutely. So we're going to be back Sunday morning for sure with the live show with Nick at 9 a.m. like always. And if any news breaks, if there's more additions or anything like that, we might have an episode tonight, or we might go live tomorrow or whatever. So just stay on the lookout. I would, follow me on X at DMcShaw28. I always let you guys know when we have these impromptu lives like we had today. So, yeah, man, appreciate you guys. AU Sleeping Giant says, I feel really good about this hire. Golis also seems to have full control of the program. Great to see. I agree with you 100%, man. I do. I feel like things are going in the right direction. There's a long way to go. They haven't played a football game yet, but a lot of what we're seeing is refreshing. A lot of what we're seeing, I have been asking for, and a lot of fans have been asking for a long time. This is the approach that Alex Golis has taken. In the mindset, the culture that he is trying to set at Auburn, I think it's what's needed. I think Auburn has needed it for a long time, but right now it is definitely needed to get Auburn turned around and just start behaving like Auburn again. Start behaving like you are a top 15 all-time program, one of the founding members of the SEC that has won national championships, that has won Heisman trophies, 5 losing seasons in a row. That's not Auburn football. There's way too much. Resources and energy that gets pumped into this program for what's going on these last 5 years. I think Alex Golis, look, there's one thing we can say. We'll wrap this episode up. Alex Golis is working hard. Andrew Warsaw working hard. This staff is putting in the work right now. They had a monumental task ahead of them, and they are doing their best to bring in talent and build this roster the best way that they see fit. So there's no question about how hard they're working and how bad they want it. That hunger that I thought the last coach was going to have, it appears like Alex Golis has that hunger. He has that juice. He has that want to come in and prove to everybody that he's going to win some football games. So, all right, man, that's going to wrap it up. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button on the way out. Share this out on social media and tag me at DMcShaw28 when you do, because we weren't supposed to go live this morning. Probably wasn't expected. A lot of people probably didn't know that happened. So share this out. Let them know that the content is here, right here on the Uptempo podcast. And we will be back for sure Sunday morning, 9 a.m. with the live show. And we might do some more content just depending on what happens. The transfer portal is active. A lot of stuff going on as always. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all. Stay tapped in. Turn on those automatic notifications because you never know when we go live like we did this morning. Word Amigo. I hope everybody has a good weekend. I'll see y'all. I'm out.